ברוך אתה ה' אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. Our tradition, in particular the Mishnah, which is one of the main sources of our tradition, starts with the following in Pirkei Avot. Those are the teachings of the fathers, ethics of the fathers. They say the following: you should be very prudent in your judgments, create many disciples, and make a fence around the Torah. In other words, if the Torah gives you a law, then do something to prevent people from violating the law. The second one is very important. I want to delve a little bit on that one, which says you should create many disciples. The word used in the Mishnah is he'emidu. You should make to stand up. Leha'amid means to put somebody in a standing position. What does this mean, standing position? So maybe it means the following, that these disciples, these pupils that you're going to form, that you're going to create, should be able to stand on their own 2 feet. In other words, that they should become independent really in their judgments. You should create originally thinking people, and eventually they should be even independent of their teachers. They should be able to create something by themselves. I remember when I was going to become a rabbi, I was examined on 2 tractates. Those are 2 volumes of the Talmud. The Talmud in reality has 63 volumes, but my examiners, those that were questioning whether I know or not, they weren't interested in whether I have much information. They wanted to know how well I understood those 2 tractates that I learned, and if I had the ability to investigate. In other words, to study by myself. If a problem would come in front of me, would I know where to go? So it wasn't a question really of the quantity of knowledge that I have. What they wanted to know is what was the quality of knowledge. You know, nowadays we have instruments that enable anybody to find anything out. You don't have to know the information. You can find information, Google it. That's a verb nowadays. In other words, there are means today of getting into all kinds of sources, uniting them and giving you all the information that you need. You know, many a times we say to somebody, how old are you? And the question maybe is not the right one. You know, our biological system maybe ages at a certain pace as time goes on. What about our intellectual abilities? Do they age the same way? Do we become wiser as years pass by? Can you measure the days of the lives of different individuals in the same way? I think that some people age differently altogether, have different capabilities. So I can be 60 and somebody else is 60, but I lived much less during those 60 years than the other person did. In other words, the idea is that you have to form people and teach them how to become independent, how to think by themselves, how to utilize the many instruments that we have now available to ourselves. You know, we educate our children. We teach them through our own behavior. We teach them by the way we dress, by the way we eat, by the way we do everything. But what is really the goal of every parent? Every parent would like to have a son, a daughter that should be able to decide by themselves eventually, that should become really independent, even though you'd like to keep this relationship forever between father and child. But the idea is that the person, your child, should become a man. Your daughter should become a woman who should make her own decisions in accordance with the things maybe that you taught them, but then also in accordance with the things that they learned. But eventually, the decision must be theirs. You know, when somebody comes with an extended arm, you have to help him. If somebody is hungry, give him food. Don't give him a discourse. Don't give him a sermon. You have to satisfy his immediate need. But actually, the greatest help to somebody who needs is to make him independent of that need in the future. This is what Maimonides says. There are different ways of giving. You give without the person knowing who gave, without looking for any kind of reward or recognition for what you did. But the greatest kind of help is when you help somebody else that he no longer will need help in the future. So what we need in new generations is really original thinkers, people that should become independent, because as I mentioned, with all the facilities that we have nowadays, information isn't that important that you should have it in your hands. You can always find it. The question is, what are you going to do with that information? How are you going to tie it all together? What we want really is educated people, cultured people, not because of the amount of information that they have, but the quality of information, and above all, if they know how to utilize that information. What some people say, what culture is really? Culture is really what remains with you after you have forgotten everything you learned. In other words, it's the means, it's the ability. So make sure that in your relations with other people as well, that the minutiae isn't important. The important thing is the general relationship that you have with other people, whether there is understanding. Information isn't as important as the quality of relationship that you have with other people.